If I were to show you two pieces of artwork that someone had done, and one of them just involves painting a single dot on the middle of a big white canvas, and the other one is the person carefully gluing marbles one on top of each other until they balance 8 feet high, you may have a preference for looking at one or the other, but just think about how much money you would in theory be willing to pay for each of these. If you're like most people, you think the thing that took a lot of effort is worth more. There have been psychology studies on this since the 1950s. It's difficult for people to separate out the effort that went into something from its value. In other words, the effort is used as a shortcut for understanding quality. For example, in one paper done by Kruger et al., they had people rate a poem or rate a painting or rate a suit of armor, and the people generally thought it was better quality and worth more money, and they liked it better if they thought it took more time and effort to produce. A friend of mine uses the example of diamonds. People will pay much more money for a real diamond with flaws than they will for a synthetically grown diamond from a laboratory that has no flaws at all. Now, why would you pay extra money for flaws? Part of this has to do with the notion of effort. The real diamond was produced by Mother Nature over millions of years of compression. So it's a very special thing that took quote unquote effort on the part of Mother Nature. But the lab-grown diamond, that can be done in a day and a half. And so even though it's more perfect, it is less valuable because it just took less time to make it. We actually pay for flaws. Now, I'm not arguing that we can't be fooled at some point into loving AI-generated literature. It seems quite possible to me that in the future there will be novels written by AI, and we might not always know it because the AI will also generate a false story about the author, complete with a biography and a generated photograph. My assertion is simply that faking it is going to be an important part of what the AI will need to do, because it's more difficult to become invested in something that we think is simply doing massive statistical calculations rather than having a private, limited, internal life. We care about other humans. So what's the big picture? My friend Kevin Kelly suggested to me the other day that generative AI may play a role that's analogous to the invention of the camera. What happened at that moment in history was that painters lamented that this was the end of painting because you could now capture anything instantly with the click of a button, and you could capture it with zero mistakes. So why would you sit there with a paintbrush and painstakingly try to capture every detail by hand? At that moment in history, it seemed clear that painters were done for. But as it turns out, photographs ended up filling a different niche. Absolute realism wasn't the only end goal of art. People didn't only want a maximally realistic print of a scene. They also wanted swirls and amazing color and, more importantly, things that didn't exist in the outside world. So canvas painting remained an active field even while photography grew and ended up flowering on a neighboring field. So one possibility is that AI-generated literature will not foment a takeover, but instead it's going to fill a new niche, one that we don't quite see yet, but it isn't the same plot of land.